Live for the last time. Ooh, yeah! Hello and welcome to my graveyard for the final time at Ram Nation Radio. I am your host of the evening, the Cemetery Man from Salem, Mass, ready to take some names and, of course, always kick some ass. I am John Grande. How are we doing? My Facebook Live listeners, Instagram Live listeners, Ram Nation Radio app listeners. I gotta tell you, man, it has been quite an emotional ride for me today. I'm not even gonna say a roller coaster because I feel like I've just been dipping, like, with each hour I'm like more down. It's pretty terrible. For those of you that don't know, today is actually my last day of school ever. Like, and for me to process, I know some people like I know Kaylin and Kareem were like, hell yeah, we're getting out of here, but like, I can't really fully embrace it yet because I'm kind of just like, Tom is on the other side of the glass today, thankfully. One of my favorite guests I ever had on the show. I'll be thanking everybody later individually. But man, to say this has been an emotional day is just the understatement of the year. Every single September since I'm like 4 or 5, I have gone to school in that September. And this coming September will be the first time since that age that I won't be in school. I'll probably have a full-time job. Hopefully can get something in the radio business, and hopefully I can make money, make the bank, bring home the bread, get a hot honey, and travel off into the goddamn sunset when it's time for my fat ass to retire. But I mean, it's just been a long journey. I feel like this is a chapter in my life that's coming to an end, and I'm one of those people. I'm definitely sad it's ending, but I am glad it happened at the same time too. So there is that. So I do this show with a heavy heart, ladies and gentlemen. But we are going to talk about, of course, some horror today. One of my favorite things in the world to discuss. We're going to get into the top 10 horror films of this decade, the ones that I just absolutely go gaga for. You're going to want to listen to this, especially if you're a newer horror fan, because I'm going to give you newer horror films. I know a lot of new horror fans, they don't want to watch the old stuff because it's old. Well, this is in black and white. I don't want to watch Bride of Frankenstein. Dawn of the Dead. The blood doesn't look that good. I don't want to watch Dawn of the Dead. Yeah, you see a lot of people have all these gripes and stuff, but these movies I got here in this nice little bundle, these movies I hope tickle your fancy as good as it tickles mine. So we're going to get into that, and of course we're going to have thank yous at the end for anybody and everybody that made this show possible, but we will get there. And I promise, I think I'm going to get a little bit of emotional. I ain't going to lie, but let's dive right in, head first, into the top 10 horror films of the decade. We're going to start off with some honorable mentions, ladies and gentlemen. I got 5 honorable mentions. I'll talk a little bit about them, but I want to really get to the meat and potatoes. This is kind of like your appetizer here. All right, so honorable mentions. I have As Above, So Below. Really, really good found footage movie about this like group of I think they're filmmakers, and they go down like underground, and they basically can't escape. Like all this crazy stuff happened at that particular place they went underground. It's like a sewer, and they can't get out. They're getting picked off one by one, and their childhood memories are coming back to haunt them. And I just thought it was a really, really well done movie by John Eric Dowdle, who also did Quarantine, Devil. He made that terrible movie with Owen Wilson after this, or like Owen Wilson goes on vacation and like all these terrorists like attack his family and stuff. Like it was a really poor film. But this is, I would say, John Eric Dowdle's best film. I mean, I think he just nailed it. I have The Woman from 2011, directed by the legendary Lucky McKee, one of my favorite horror film directors going today. I absolutely love Lucky. Of course, he made May in 2002 and just set the world on fire with that. Followed that one up with The Woods from 2007, which is really underrated in my opinion. And then The Woman in 2011, which I think is an absolute classic that nobody ever mentions. I think it's a really, really good movie. Of course, Angela Bettis is in that one as well. I do have one remake on the honorable mention list, and it's the Suspiria remake. I would not kid you when I say I think Suspiria remake was the best horror film of last year. I thoroughly enjoyed the Suspiria remake, and I wanted to hate it. So that's when you know something's really good, because I went into the theater saying, you ain't gonna like this, you ain't gonna like this. Walked out like, that was fantastic. So that goes to tell you, because I am not one for remakes. I normally, 9 times out of 10, hate them. Like the Dawn of the Dead remake, the Thing remake, the Blob remake, and I would say the Suspiria remake are like the best remakes in my opinion. Those 4 are definitely the creme de la creme when it comes to remakes. But also have one sequel on the honorable mentions list, and it is VHS 2. You can watch all these movies, I believe, on Netflix. They're super fun. They're just shot on video. It's like Creepshow made into a shot on video movie. So you have each segment, and the best segment of VHS 2 is this one with this crazy Indonesian cult. It's like this group of filmmakers go there, and one of them is pregnant, and she is actually like cheating on her boyfriend with one of the other filmmakers. And because she committed this infidelity, all hell breaks loose in this Indonesian cult. And I am telling you, this segment of VHS 2 is the craziest horror segment and or movie or part in a film you will see of the entire, I'm going to go the century. It is one of the craziest things you'll ever see. Watch that segment from VHS Part 2. It was directed by Gareth Evans, who also did The Raid and The Raid 2. Excellent action films. And last but not least on the honorable mentions is Terrifier. I really wanted this one to be in the top 10, but it just goes to show you how good the top 10 really are. Terrifier, best slasher movie, I would say, of the entire decade. I think it's a fantastic film. Another one on Netflix. Just a really, really good movie about this killer clown that stalks these girls and saws them in half, and the gore is galore in this movie. Excellent stuff. The Terrifier, they're trying to make a sequel to it now. I know it's done written, but they're trying to get the financing for it, and I hope they do get the financing for it, because it was a kick-ass slasher film. The best slasher film of this decade, in my opinion. But without further ado, let's jump into the top 10 greatest horror films of the decade. Here we go. All right. So coming in at number 10, we have the French horror film Raw. Yes, this is Raw from 2017. I don't actually have that one in the box of goodies right here. I'll be showing these up. I don't know. I think I have the next one, so I'll get that one out just in case. But this film I thought was excellent. It basically follows this girl who her entire life has been a vegetarian. And her entire life has trained to go to this prestigious veterinarian school that her parents went to before her, and her older sister is currently attending. And she basically gets there, and of course the pressures of college kind of fall in on her. They want her to join fraternities, and they make her eat rabbit guts, and it's a pretty gross movie. I know a lot of people were going into this one expecting a gross out body like horror film. I honestly wasn't. I thought they'd go the psychological route with a little bit of the body horror mixed in, and that's exactly what I got. I think the genius of this movie is the psychological horror of the horrors of fitting in, and the horrors that one goes through just to be a part of the crowd. And like, I think that is so vital and so important, such a cool message, because I think it goes, I mean, I go to a college. I mean, I don't know how many kids join fraternities here just to be a part of a group, just to be a part of something. And Farmingdale is a commuter school. I mean, 95% of the kids here commute. So they're going home to mommy and daddy at the end of the day. So you really see the stretches that people will go to just to fit in. And this girl sells out everything she had learned up to this point just to be a part of this fraternity. And she ends up, it kind of, the ball keeps on rolling, snowball effect, and she becomes a cannibal. And there's some just great sequences in this of her and her sister. They're hungry, and the both of them, one of them runs out in the middle of traffic. The car swerves to avoid them, crashes into a tree, and then they eat the remains of the people that crashed and died in the accident that they caused. I mean, that's some dark stuff right there. Like, that's not something usually, I don't think an American horror film, at least a mainstream theatrical horror film, would attempt to do, would go for. But man, I just had chills my entire time watching this. I watched this with my good buddy Brandon, And I remember we watched this around Halloween time, like a week before Halloween, and we were just on the edge of our seat the entire time. A really, really good score to this movie. Just this creepy kind of, I can't really explain it. It's kind of a synth score, kind of not, kind of with a synthesizer. But man, I really, really am a big fan of Raw. It has a crazy twist ending that I honestly did not see coming. Some gross out effects, some psychological trauma, some cannibalism, good old flesh eating, and all that good stuff that we love in our horror films. So that is Raw at number 10. I really, really enjoyed that movie. I know a lot of people didn't. It's one of those, you'll see with a lot of movies on this list, they're very polarizing. There are people that love these movies like me, and then there will be people that say they're the worst movies. Like, I'll even give a spoiler alert. The Babadook is not on this list. I hated The Babadook. I thought The Babadook was a terrible film. And that's one that people would have close to the number 1 slot. So, and same thing with Hereditary. I thought Hereditary was boring as sin, so I don't have that on this list here. But it goes to show you that, the ones that I love, other people love too, but there were some people that hated the ones that I love just as much, and then vice versa. Either I didn't like Hereditary or The Babadook, so that's why those movies will not be on this list. I will tell you right now, so do not get your hopes up. But that brings me to number 9. I would say, man, looking at this, well, no, the number 5 movie is the most underrated, but I would say this is the second most underrated movie on the entire list, and this is Adam Green's Frozen. Yes, I know. I have been a big hater of Mr. Adam Green ever since I saw the first Hatchet, thought the movie was trash, but he really proved something to me when he made this movie, because I was already on the fence. I was almost on the Eli Roth fence where you can't do anything good. Just give up. You're a hack. West Coast elite my ass. Yada, yada, yada. But I got to be honest. He nailed this movie. It's basically the story of these 3 friends that they're on a skiing trip for the weekend, and they get stuck on a ski lift over a few days. The lodge closes down for a few days, and they're stuck at the top of this lift, and they have to figure out how to get down. And the big reason I really like this movie is a lot of the dialogue between the characters. I think it's fantastically written, again, by Mr. Adam Green, who also wrote and directed this movie. And I just think it gives you the claustrophobic feel of what would I do if this was the situation. There's one point where one of the characters tries to jump, and it's just so tension-filled. Really, really good stuff. He falls, and there are some crazy-ass wolves that attack him, and man, it's kind of brutal. And the thing is, they don't show a lot of it, but I think it's intended and it's felt. And with a movie like this, I like this. This is not a slasher film. It doesn't have to be shown necessarily. There are some good practical effects, but it's mainly a movie about dialogue. It's mainly a movie about what would I do if I was in the situation that these characters are in. And I just have a really, really good time with this. Shawn Ashmore's in this from the X-Men films. He played Iceman. Just does a great job in a serious role where he's kind of the lead. He starts off as like the sidekick buddy, and then he kind of transforms into one of the leads of the movie. And I just really, really like, they talk about Star Wars stuff, and, this could be worse. And what could it be? It could be the Sarlacc pit, worst death ever. They discussed cigarette versus smoking pot, and just some different stuff in this movie that I really, really enjoyed, and I just have a really good time with it. I think the reason I like this movie so much is because Adam Green proved that he's not a one-trick pony, that he can do stuff that I approve of. I know there are fans of the Hatchet films, and all power to you. I'm not trying to discourage you, but this movie I think will always remain his best. I thought Digging Up the Marrow was a decent film, but this movie I herald as Adam Green's best, because he was able to have that practical effect. He was able to have the dialogue in there, the fear of, I guess I want to say claustrophobia, or I guess the fear of heights, the fear of wolves, the fear of isolation, and I think he hit the nail on the head. I think Adam Green's Frozen, and goddamn that stupid Disney movie for taking the attention away from this, because once that movie came out, this movie was forgotten about, because now when you say Frozen, everybody assumes that you mean this stupid Disney movie, which stunk, by the way. This is miles better than that movie. And you're talking to a guy that actually enjoys Disney films. I'm not just like one of those hipsters that hates everything, but man, this is a really, really, really good movie. Really well done. I really recommend Adam Green's Frozen. Awesome time. Really, really underrated flick. Probably the second most underrated on this list. And coming up next, we have an entry from, I would say one of the more underrated horror film directors. I know he made 2 movies that people despise in Halloween 1 and Halloween 2 from '07 and '09 respectively, but I gotta say that I really love this movie, and it is Rob Zombie's The Lords of Salem. Yes, The Lords of Salem. I really like this movie. I think this is his best movie. Because it's another director that had something to say, had something to prove coming off those 2 Halloween films. Because a lot of people were giving him crap. Exploitation ain't Halloween. I'm one of those people that said that. You just toned up the gore. You just made that character uninteresting by making him 7 feet tall. All the ways he went wrong with those movies. I think he said, let me turn back the clock here. All the criticism that I've gotten, let me see if I can overrule it. Let me see if I can take the cursing out of my movies where everybody says there's too much cursing. There's hardly any cursing in this. Let me take out the extreme violence and over-the-top characters. There really aren't too many over-the-top characters or extreme violence in this. It's really an atmospheric witch film. And it has beautiful cinematography. I mean, beautiful cinematography. There's a scene in this movie where I'll give the basic plot. I have talked about this one on the show before. But if you have not seen this, it basically follows Sherry Moon Zombie's character, Heidi, and she works at this radio station, which I hope to do one day. Fingers crossed, toes crossed, cross your arms, cross everything you got. Hopefully it happens. But she's working at this radio station, and basically one day this package is delivered to her, and it's a record, and it's from the Lords, and they play the record on the air, and basically any women that hear the record play is entranced by it, and they're hypnotized by it. And slowly but surely you start to learn what is going on, and kind of a Shining way, like it's kind of a slow burn movie, but I just love the cinematography in this movie. There's one scene where she thinks she sees somebody closing a door in this apartment that she lives in. And she kind of slowly tiptoes to the door, opens the door up, and you see this giant red cross. And it's lit in like neon lighting. It is gorgeous, man. It's one of those movies where it's one of those moments in a movie where I pause it and just look at the aesthetic of it, just how beautiful it really looks. Just gorgeous stuff, man. And then you see there's somebody behind her, this cloaked figure behind her, and then bam, they cut the scene. Like, that's really, really good, subtle horror. And there's a lot of that in this. And I think the characters do a great job. Ken Foree is in this. Gotta love Ken Foree, one of the best genre stars to ever live. Dawn of the Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Of course, the father, Mr. Rockmore, if you will, and Keenan and Kel. Rock on, Mr. Foree. And I think Rob Zombie, again, another guy that proved all the critics and the hate wrong. Yeah, he made those 2 remakes. Yeah, they aren't the best. I don't like either movie, really. However, he showed you what he can do when he's trying to be original. He showed you what he can do when he's trying to be atmospheric. And again, I know it's another movie that people do not like. They think it's a Shining ripoff. They think it's ridiculous. They think it's the stupidest thing ever. And a lot of that, I think, is because they have a bias against Rob Zombie. I've talked to plenty of people. If you hate Rob Zombie, it's hard to give his movies a chance. Because I'll be honest, man, no matter if I hate you, love you, whatever, I'll give your film a chance. And if I don't like the film, I can keep crapping on you all I want. And a prime example is the movie I just talked about, Frozen. Didn't like anything Adam Green ever touched or said before I saw this movie. I was fully expecting to hate this movie. I loved it so much I bought it on Blu-ray. So I am totally fair. I watch the films for what they are, and then I give it a go. That's just my kind of mentality with it. I don't really like to just say, oh, this guy is worthless, I'm never going to watch any of his other stuff. Because you got to see, sometimes they can throw a real curveball and hit it out of the park. And I think that Rob Zombie with this film was able to do that. You have a crazy final sequence with her riding like a goat and all this crazy stuff, like religious paintings of Jesus melting and fat naked people wearing sheep masks walking, and it is out there finish. But man, I really enjoy this flick. Bruce Dern's also in it in a really, really cool. I'm not Bruce Dern. I'm sorry, Bruce Davison. My bad. Jeff Daniel Phillips. Just a really good cast. Dee Wallace is in this. Of course, Meg Foster is in this, and she's kind of naked throughout the entire movie. It's very awkward and disgusting to watch, but I think that was the intention. So I think Mr. Zombie did a fantastic job with this film. I really, really like The Lords of Salem. Check this one out if you have not already. Okay, so moving on to one that I don't have on DVD, but I should have on DVD because, or Blu-ray, I guess. It is this was a really cool movie experience for me. I went with my good friend Connor to New York City for like one of the first screenings of this movie because I saw the trailer of this movie, and I won't lie. I think this, if I think of a great trailer, great horror trailer, it's this movie's trailer. And without further ado, it is Good Night Mommy. Yes, Good Night Mommy from 2014. I remember seeing it in the city with my good friend Connor, like right when I started college, which is bizarre. And now my last day of college, I'm talking about is one of my favorite horror films of the decade. But it basically involves these two boys, and they are waiting for their mother to come home from getting a face surgery. You don't really know what happened yet. They fill you in, of course, but you don't know what happened. You don't know what's gone on. And you slowly but surely learn that they believe that this woman that came home is with the cast on her face is not really their mother because she's acting aggressive, hitting them, starving them at some point. And to say this movie is psychologically disturbing would be an understatement, man. It is so goddamn disturbing. I really, really like the young kid actors they have in this movie. They do such a good job, such a fantastic job at delivering their lines, and because it's not an easy thing to do for a child actor to act serious and act scared and all these things, but these kids nail it. There's one point where they're trying to figure out if their mom is if it's their mom or not. They pour these beetles on her and she eats one, and you're just like, what? Like, it's crazy. There's points where they follow her out into the woods and she's taking her clothes off, and just it's a weird film, but man, is it off the chain insane great. I really like Goodnight Mommy. There is a twist in it, and I won't lie, my friend Connor called the twist 5 minutes into watching the movie. Like, he nudged me and said the twist. He was like, I just figured it out. He goes, I got it. And I was like, about 10 minutes later, I was like, he's 100% right. That would make all the sense in the world. I will not ruin it for you. However, if you have more than a brain cell, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to figure it out on your own about 5 minutes into the film, or 15 minutes if you're on my level. But I think the director really captured a really good atmosphere with this film. I think he captured a really good sense of style and a really good sense of doubt. You know, you're doubting. Imagine if that happened to your parent. Like, my mom came home and she wasn't the same. What did you do to her? What happened to her? Where has she been? Is this the same lady? And, like, that's kind of terrifying to think about. And that's kind of terrifying to put into perspective. But when you do it, and when you do it in a film that is this solid, I just say hats off to the director. I don't know the director's name off the top of my head, but I think he or she did a fantastic job directing this movie. It really kept me on the edge of my seat. I really wanted to know what was going to happen. And I will say, the final act of this movie, it almost becomes like a Saw film. It gets very violent. Like, from where it starts off, psychological, thriller, horror, doubt movie. Is this my mom? Is this not my mom? Is this some crazy hoe? Like, who is this? And then you move on to the ending, the last, like, 30 minutes, where they're, like, torturing this lady because they don't think it's their mother. And they super glue her hand to her mouth, and, like, it's crazy. They poured bugs on her. They've slapped the crap out of her. Like, it's a scary goddamn ending. To see, like, 2 7-year-old boys beating the crap out of their mother. Like, I never thought I'd see that in a movie, but it happens. And it happens pretty damn suddenly. And I just really, really enjoyed this film. I think this was one of those movies that I guess a lot of people felt it didn't live up to the trailer, but I would say to people that say that, what the hell could at the same time? Because that trailer was just badass. I would say probably the best trailer of the decade, because that trailer is legendary. It's so damn scary. You're just like, holy crap, I want to see that right now. And it was a nice night. I remember seeing that in the city, going to the diner, getting a nice burger. I mean, that was just a really, really good time for me. It was really, really ready to see a new horror film, and I thought it really delivered. Goodnight Mommy coming in at the number 7 slot. So moving on to the number 6 slot. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are almost at the top 5. It is Mr. Robert Eggers' The Witch. Yes, The Witch from 2016. Another one I actually saw with Connor. Jesus, how many of these have I seen with Connor? Connor, shout out to you, buddy. I'll get you on the show one of these days. We'll get you on the show when we're unfiltered, so you can curse all you want, because I know you ain't going to keep it PC, brother. But yeah, The Witch, really, really good little atmospheric little gem of a movie. It basically stars, it's this family in like the late 1600s, and of course during the late 1600s the Salem witch trials were going on. That's very much in the background though. That's not as much in the forefront as you'd think. I thought it was going to be a movie like The Crucible, like about the Salem witch trials. It's really not. It's really under the surface. It's there, but it's not there. And this family moves out to the middle of the woods. They're kicked out of the town. You're never told why. That's all left up to you as a viewer. And basically you have the oldest daughter playing with the baby. She's playing peekaboo. And the next thing you know, she plays peekaboo and the baby's gone. And this one early event, I mean, this happens less than 10 minutes into the movie, the baby is gone. It starts the slow, gradual descent and downfall of this family that at first seems like this loving, normal, apple pie American family, and they snowball into this mess, into this atrocity. And man, to watch, it's almost like slowly watching a building collapse. And watching it is surreal. I really, really, really enjoy watching this movie because it's such a slow descent into madness for this family. And I just think it's super, super well done by Mr. Robert Eggers. Of course, you have some family turning. You have a scene. This is one of those movies. It's hard to spoil because I could give away the ending, and I don't want to. The ending's kind of the best part of the movie, in my opinion. But I think you just have a lot of cool, creepy stuff in this. You have these two younger twins that they're infatuated with this goat they have, and it's Black Phillip. They keep calling the goat Black Phillip, and they're singing tales about Black Phillip. And then there's the other brother, and he's wanting to provide for the family. And there's one point where he goes, I think I see an apple tree. I'm going to go see it. And he's just lying to just give hope to his family and stuff like that. And I just think it is just fantastic. Tyler, come in here, buddy. Tyler can come in. Tyler's leaving. I gotta hold the dead air for a minute and give him a hug.
God damn it.
I love you, homie.
Love you
Thanks
too.
for everything.
Pleasure.
I'll see you graduation day, all right?
Definitely, my friend.
Stay beautiful, okay?
Likewise. Have a good one, buddy.
Like I said, this is the last day for everybody. I apologize for the dead air, but I had to say goodbye to Tyler. Tyler has been such a fantastic person to me, and I will thank everybody in their individualness at the end. So bear with me here. But yeah, this kid, he lies about this apple tree, and then basically the witch makes his ass pay for it. She makes him throw up an entire Macintosh in front of his mom and dad and sister, and all the kids are like, she's a witch, she's a witch. It's all this doubt. Who is the witch? Is somebody in on it? Are they all being manipulated? Are they all? And that's the thing. It happens. It's all about, again, it's another movie really about doubt. Is the oldest daughter a witch? Is she following Black Phillip like these twins that say that she is? Is the father doing something? Is the mother just losing her marbles altogether? Hell yeah, she is. You see, there's a crazy-ass breastfeeding scene involving a crow. And I was like, yo, what's going on in this movie? I'm in a goddamn Regal Cinema watching this with a sold-out crowd. I didn't think I'd see that. But Mr. Eggers, that's the cool thing. He had $1 million budget. He said, I'm going to go for it. And the studio loved it. And some horror fans really, really dug it. I know a lot of people, it's boring. I can't get that. All right, I understand. I respect that. But I don't know. I thought it was a really, really cool, kind of slow, gradual little horror movie. And I thought that he did a tremendous job with it. And I can't wait for his film next year. I think it's going to have William Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. It's going to be called The Lighthouse, and I think it looks badass. I'm excited to see what Robert Eggers does next because I really, really dig his style and I really, really dig his taste in the genre. So that is number 6. That is The Witch. And now delving into the top 5. And of all the ones that I have here today, I don't think there's any one of them that is more underrated than this film right here. It is from 2012. It is Jeremy Gardner's The Battery. Yes, my favorite zombie movie of this entire decade. A zombie movie that does not get talked about. A zombie movie that is totally just kind of brushed to the side, and I can't understand why. because I think this is like throwing back to the Romero roots of why zombie movies work. And I'll tell you right off the bat, this is not a Train to Busan. This is not a Dawn of the Dead remake. This is not a Dead Snow 2, where it's just gore galore zombie films. This is a movie where the zombies are in the background and the real horror is between our two main characters, the horror that they deal with. And that's why I love this film, and that's why I have always loved the zombie genre. Sure, Return of the Living Dead, it's a classic. Sure, the Dawn of the Dead remake, a really solid film. Dead Snow 2, really fun gore zombie movies. I'm not saying that gore zombie movies aren't OG. They are. However, I don't think you can do any better than the Romero style. And I don't think any movie has ever taken that Romero style and made it work as well as Jeremy Gardner did with this film. It basically tells the story of these two minor league baseball players and named Mickey and Ben. And Mickey and Ben, it starts off and it's the zombie apocalypse. They just leave their house, they're on the road, they don't know what to do, and you slowly learn about their characters. You learn that Ben was really cool. Ben got along with everybody. Well, Mickey, on the other hand, he didn't get along with anybody. He was kind of a loner. He's just kind of with Ben just because they're the final two on the team that are still alive. And it's the horror of getting to know and getting along with somebody that you honestly didn't have that much in common with, that didn't know that well. And that situation of the apocalypse forces them into that. It forces them to cooperate. It forces them to communicate. And there's some really, really good stuff in here. They find a walkie-talkie at one point, and it's basically this civilization of people, and they're like, we want to come in. Mickey can't let it go. Mickey wants into the society. I want to be a part of this. They're having movie nights and stuff. He's like, please, I want to be a part of this. I'm sick of living on the road. I want to live in a real house, in an actual bed. And they touch upon a lot of the survival aspects of apocalypse movies. Like, it's not just, all right, we're going to shoot 300 zombies in the head like you've seen before, kill them in creative ways. We don't really go that route with this movie. This movie is more talking about the horrors of communication. And I just think it's so damn well done. There's a scene where Ben and Mickey, they're in this house because Mickey's like, finally had it. I'm like, I want to stay in this house for the night. There's nothing your fat ass can do to tell me otherwise. I want to stay in this house for the night. And he goes, all right, fair enough. So he's asleep, and while he's asleep, Ben grabs a zombie and throws him in the room and locks the door. And he throws a bat to him. He's like, you gotta get him, Mickey. And Mickey beats the hell out of the zombie and stuff like that. He's really threw his friends to the wolves, or threw his wolves to the friend. And I was like, wow, like that's something that a real bro would do, man. You don't want to kill any zombies. You're being you're being a sissy about it. I'm gonna throw a zombie in your face while you're in slumber. And we'll see if your ass can really hang. And like, I just love stuff like that. And basically, you have this crazy, hilarious final act where they get trapped in their car. And it is literally like over a half hour of them in the car, talking, eating, and like, I just love, on a personal level, I love their chemistry. Because it's not a movie where they start off with, oh, we're best friends for life. They start off hating each other. They really do. Like he says, oh man, Mickey, you aren't a good pitcher. You are a one-pitch bitch. One-pitch bitch Mickey, and hell of a pitch though. Like the dialogue's really, really good in this. And I just love how they slowly but surely learn to work together. A tremendous soundtrack. Rock Plaza Central, I believe. They did the Johnny Cash song in the beginning. Really, really good. Ain't No Grave. A fantastic cover of that song. And I love the ending where they're trying to keep themselves occupied before Mickey tries to make a run for the keys to the car that they're trapped in. And they're drinking, they're playing rock, paper, scissors, they're doing start something that starts with A. And they go, I'm trapped in a car and I want to eat an apple. And then the next person has to do something with a B, and so on and so forth. And like, to say it's entertaining is just, it's so entertaining. I love this movie. I know there are people that say this is boring too. I don't know. This is my cup of tea. This is what I like to see in a zombie film. And they sing the Jaws song, show me the way to go home. I love that. It's a nice little nod. And I like right before Mickey goes out, they embrace in the handshake, and he says, tomorrow we die. And like, it's it's disturbing, but I think it's sweet at the same time. Like it's absolutely bittersweet. It is exactly what it is, and that's sometimes what these situations come to. And I just think this is a perfect movie. I love this. For the budget that he had a $6,000 budget. He had 10 friends loan him $600. That's how he made this film. It looks tremendous. This could have been released theatrically. It should have been released theatrically, and I think it is the most underrated horror movie of this decade. I love this movie because it's everything I ever want in a zombie film. It's the fear and lack of communication between the humans. It's the proverbial, zombies are the pawns in the proverbial chess game, and when we don't get along, that's when the pawns attack. That's when, if we can't get along in here, we will be eaten, consumed, and conquered by the zombies out there. That's the message. That's the point of this type of zombie film, and I love it for that reason. That is Jeremy Gardner's The Battery. Love this film to death. Absolute awesome flick. All right, and to number 4, the movie that scared my buns off, man. I seen this movie in the theater with a bunch of friends, sold out crowd on Thursday night showing, and I won't lie, this movie scared the bejesus out of me. And I will say I will endorse it. This is the scariest horror film of the decade, in my opinion. And it is James Wan's Insidious. Yes, Insidious from 2011. Really, really, really scary ass movie. It's one of those movies, I don't watch this one as much for the story. There is a story there. It's basically this family and their child falls into a coma. They don't know why. And you basically learn that he's a dream warrior, basically. He goes, when he falls asleep, he can travel into other dimensions and other worlds. And basically a demon captures him one night and they have to go in to save him. That's basically the plot. But some of the scenes in this movie are terrifying. There's a scene where the mother she hears a sound and she gets up and she checks on the kid. Then she goes to check on the baby. And you look and there's nothing in the room but the carriage, and there's nothing in the room behind, nothing. And Juan does that orchestra score. And I'm looking around, I'm like, I didn't see anything. And then she walks in the room, and then bam, there's just a cloaked figure behind. And I'm just like, where did he come from? Was he standing there the whole time? And it's that second guessing that really makes it scary. He didn't do the gradual jump scare. He did the noise, and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't see it. Oh, there it is. Genius way to throw a jump scare at somebody. Be like, all right, here it is. Nope, here it is. And like no music whatsoever, because everybody in the crowd saw it. No music at all. And everybody jumped, man. This is one of those movies that I loved seeing it with a crowd. There were popcorn thrown in the air, soda, babies, you name it. Everything was being thrown in the air that night. And like, that's what the genre should be. A fun time at the movies. There's a reason all the Friday 13th movies of the 80s drew money. It's because they were a fun, scary time at the movies to go with friends, go with some broskies and broskies, get some dooskies and brewskis, some popcorn, candy, you name it. And that's the beauty of horror movies. I think if there was one of these I could recommend you watch with a group of friends, this is the one. I really, really enjoy Insidious. I think it's James Wan's, one of his masterpiece films. I just absolutely adore this movie. Of course, he was coming off making Saw, Dead Silence, Death Sentence. He took a 4-year hiatus before this one came out, and it was worth the wait because this is a phenomenal film. The scariest film of the decade, in my humble opinion. I love Insidious. Check this one out if you have not. His next one I have, but I lent it to my uncle. He's currently owning it, watching it, whatever. And it is another James Wan film. It is from 2013. It is James Wan's The Conjuring. Yes, The Conjuring had to make this list. I think it is the best haunted house movie that I have of the decade for sure. I think it's a phenomenal film. Basically focuses on the Ed and Lorraine Warren characters, and they are called upon by the dude from Office Space and Lily Taylor. I always forget his damn... Ron Livingston, I think his name is. Yeah, that's it. It's him and Lily Taylor. And they say their house is haunted. They think that their house is haunted, and Ed and Lorraine Warren go there, and slowly but surely they're like, yep, your house is haunted, and we're going to debug it, and we're going to have a grand old time with some jump scares, some creepy ghosts, some atmosphere, and I think it's James Wan's absolute masterpiece. I think it's just such a great, well-done horror movie. It almost feels like I hear the term throwback horror movie thrown around a lot. House of the Devil is a movie movie that a lot of people really, really liked. I didn't dig it personally. Never been a big fan of Ty West. But I think James Wan with this movie, with The Conjuring, really did that. He was able to make that throwback horror movie. It almost feels like The Sentinel in some spots. I know I might be alone in thinking that, but I had that Sentinel feel. And there's an exorcism part where Lily Taylor's just going ape crap crazy. I mean, it is intense. It is an intense film. Oh, Tyler's back. Hi. Is it? Oh God. What's the matter? Oh, Jesus, I thought you were going to tell me, we never hit play, we never hit record. I would have been like, bro, for real? But anyway, get back to the flick. I just think it's James Wan's masterpiece. I think he does such a good job telling this story and making us identify with the characters of Lorraine Warren. She's having these visions, and I really like the world that he creates here. And even the opening of the film with the Annabelle doll, which Annabelle has been destroyed ever since. That should have never been a spin-off movie in the universe. Screw the universe, by the way. It's the stupidest crap ever. It's not in the... For those of you that... The Marvel universe and all that stuff, that's fine. You could do a universe for that. I don't care. The Conjuring universe? Really? That's where you're going with this? No. Just stop. Just stop lying. Just stop. Like, I can't even tell you the disdain I have for movies like The Nun. I don't want to see The Nun because I don't have an opinion on it. It's probably a 0 out of 10 movie. It looks terrible. But yeah, and none of those movies, what they don't capture is what James Wan was able to capture. He's able to capture the tensity, the effects, the characters. He bundles. He is the total, like, the 5-tool director. He bundles it all up into one and always makes it work. He makes it scary. He makes it identifiable. He makes it entertaining. That is not an easy thing to do, to be that well-rounded. But Mr. Wan is that well-rounded. I absolutely love James Wan. I would say he is the best horror director of the decade by far. I don't think there's any question about that. I just really, really love The Conjuring. I think it's a fantastic film. So go check that one out if you have not. If you've been living under a rock, I think you should go check out The Conjuring, because that is an excellent film. It's top 2 time, ladies and gentlemen. It is top 2 time. I'm pretty sure everybody knows my number 1, so I guess that's kind of anticlimactic. But these two for me are so close. I love both of these movies with a burning passion. But I had to go with this one, number 2, and then, of course, we'll get to my number 1 pick. But coming in at number 2 from 2012, it is Drew Goddard and Josh Whedon's Cabin in the Woods. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Cabin in the Woods. Another movie that I just had a blast with watching at the theater. A movie that pays homage to the genre, a movie that is self-aware, but a movie at the same time, even though it is self-aware, it isn't like it's a comedy. It isn't like The Final Girls, if you've seen that movie. That's a comedy. That's a straight-up comedy with some horror elements in it. This is a horror movie with some comedy elements in it. Like, there's a Truman Show element to it. There's the self-aware element, like Scream. And dare I say, I think this is the best self-aware horror film since Scream. I think this is a fantastic self-aware horror film. It basically tells the story. And it basically, well, I can even tell you that it promoted it like you've seen this movie before. 5 kids going to a cabin in the woods. You've seen it before with The Evil Dead, with the Friday the 13th films, with Mad Men, with all these movies. Don't Go in the Woods Alone. I could literally sit here for 3 days telling you the movies where kids go to a cabin in the woods and get picked off one by one. They knew that, and they were like, we have to put our own little spin on it. You have Hemsworth in this movie, who I absolutely love. Of course, he got the role to play Thor very shortly. This came out in 2012, but it was filmed in 2009, so it's almost technically cheating, but it's still on here. It's a badass film. And I just really, really have a blast with this one. Of course, you have the guy from Revenge of the Nerds and Richard Jenkins. Bradley Whitford, that's his name. Richard Jenkins and Bradley Whitford. And they're almost like acting as the Ed Harris character is in The Truman Show. They're like behind the scenes. And they're forcing all this stuff to happen to them. Like, they release these zombies to go kill these kids in the cabin. They're making the brainy, intelligent girl more slutty, because that's what horror tropes are. They're picking them off in the correct order. The slut dies first, then the stoner, then the jock, and then you obviously have the final girl element. And like, I just love that they were like, let's just make a movie paying homage to it. And you have this crazy, crazy, crazy final act that I think is just a blast to watch. You have, basically, they have these elevators, these universal elevators, and all from like different horror movies. There's a Pinhead ripoff in there. There's a giant snake, Anaconda. There's a killer clown, Pennywise. Like everything they have in these elevators are taken from other movies, but they're not hiding the fact. It's so blatant that you're like, oh, that's supposed to be Pinhead, but obviously they can't get the rights to Pinhead because the people who have the rights to Pinhead are stupid idiots. Yeah, I said that, but I just love that. I think it's so much fun. And basically, the final girl and the stoner guy are the last two standing, and they hit the purge button on these elevators, and all these elevators start releasing into the real world, killing all these people that put them in the situation. And man, is it fun. It is so balls to the wall fun. I have a blast with this. Sigourney Weaver shows up at the end of this movie explaining the rules of a horror film. So, of course, Sigourney Weaver from the Alien franchise. You gotta love that Ripley's in this. I thought it was a really strange role for her, but I thought it was kind of badass. And basically, you're explained, this is one I can spoil, you're explained that the ancient gods watch these kids, they watch, every country has their own version of this, and they have to all be killed for the gods to be pleased and not take over and destroy the earth. A little bit far-fetched, but man, if you're having a fun time with this, if you turn your brain off, it's the excellent movie that I think it is. And I think that I wish Drew Goddard would get more chances. I saw Bad Times at El Royale, thought it was the best film of the decade. I really did. I thought it was the best overall movie that came out this decade. I loved Bad Times at El Royale. Made no money. Made like $9 million on a $27 million budget. He's not going to get any... It's sad. Like, now the guy's got to go to the indie markets. It's really sad because the guy is so damn talented, and he proved it here with this movie. I just love Drew Goddard's direction, Josh Whedon's writing, and Drew Goddard actually wrote this one as well with him. And I think it had the right tone. I think the characters were good. I think it was kind of a game changer, but I think a lot of people who despised it did not allow it to become that. And I think that's kind of lousy, but at the same time, to each his own. I respect you if you don't enjoy this film. There are a lot of these films. They're all pretty polarizing, exception of The Battery. I don't understand why people haven't seen that though. But that is Cabin in the Woods. I really love Cabin in the Woods. Moving on to the number one horror film of the decade. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is a David Robert Mitchell film. It is from 2014. It is It Follows. Yes, my favorite horror movie of the decade. I remember, I can walk you guys through the night I saw this. I went with my good friend Reep, Connor. Gee, I think I've seen every movie on this list with Connor in the theater or sometime, other shape, way, or form. And our friend Aaron. And the four of us went, and I went into this movie expecting nothing. I went into this movie saying, oh, you know what, the trailer looked decent. Let me go see it. At the end of this movie, when the credits started to roll and the music, the amazing music, which I will have play me out my last time here, it was so epic. I love this movie. It's basically, I know we've talked about, me and Brandon did a 40-minute review of it, but I'll do brief little synopsis before I thank everybody here. It's basically about this Micah Monroe character, and her name is Jay in the movie, and she is dating this guy, and one night she has sex with him, and he chloroforms her, and when she wakes up, he tells her that, listen, there's something out there that's going to follow you, and it's going to try to kill you, and you have to be prepared, you have to be ready for it. And it's basically just this silent stalk, and not really stalk and slash, just stalk movie. And one of those movies where anybody can be it. Anybody can be following you at any single time in your life. It could be somebody you know. It could be a complete stranger. It can be a 10-year-old kid. It could be a 90-year-old woman. That's horror. And I think that's one of the most underrated directions to go with a horror film, is because horror is eternal. Horror is universal. Horror can be anybody. And that's what's so damn scary. I think that John Carpenter loved this movie. This is very much like a Carpenter film. It's like a Carpenter style with the Cronenberg type of body horror in it. And I think it's really well done. I think the music by Disaster Piece, who had only done video game scores to this point, hit it out of the goddamn park. I love Disaster Piece's score for this. I'll play it at the end. Just gives me chills. I mean, it gave me chills in the theater during and post it. That's how much I remember I downloaded the soundtrack the minute I got home from seeing this movie. It was one of those movies as a fan where I walked out of the theater, and I believe I talked to Brandon about this, where I just raised my arms like Rocky at the end of it. And I was just like, yo, cool. I was just like, yo, this is fantastic, man. I just absolutely love this film. But I was just told I only have like 5 minutes left here, so I unfortunately have to wrap it up. I did do like a 40-minute review of this with Brandon. If you want the link to that show, just let me know. I will send it to you. I love It Follows. I think it is a perfect horror movie. And one that I think will go on to be one of my all-time favorites. I think this will always stand the test of time with me. It's funny, me and my friend Don, when we used to have our FHMP show, they did a bracket. And it was this movie versus The Shining. And I said, The Shining's my favorite horror movie of the 80s. This is my favorite movie of the 2010s. And I think it's just, it's a true testament. Granted, The Shining is a better movie than this, but I think when you're looking for good, slow, creepy, atmospheric horror that has a point, that has a message, that has that nightmarish feel to it, I don't think you can get any better than this movie right here. It Follows, absolute iconic movie. So check this one out if you haven't. And now that is my list, my top 10 horror films. I would like to take this time to thank everybody that made this show possible. Bear with me here. I'm trying not to do the waterworks here. I don't even think I can make eye contact with anybody. I think I'm just going to look down. First and foremost, I want to thank Johnny Campbell. He was the one that told me about this place, and he said, Grande, you're such a nut, you're such an extroverted, crazy guy. I want you to come here and I want you to do your show every week and talk about something that you love. And that one thing that I love more than anything else in the world is horror. And I know that horror isn't everybody's ish, and I know that horror isn't the most popular thing in the whole world. I understand that, but to be honest with you, each and every week, every Thursday at 3:05, I look forward to this one thing that I get to do, and that's to talk about the one thing that I'm most passionate about. And to people that listen, I really want to thank you guys. Darren, I know Darren listens all the time. My friend Don, my friend Alex, Connor, Xavier, all these people that listen. If I haven't mentioned your name, you're in my thoughts, and I love you. I want to thank our current president for today's his last day as president, Ryan Martirano. He accepted this crazy proposal of an idea that I had, so I really want to say thank you, Mr. Martirano. All the best to you at WBAB, man. I hope you keep killing it and doing your wrestling show. I want to hear your wrestling podcast, buddy. Mr. Mike Esposito, who graduated last semester, just an excellent guy, really, really funny, kind of dry humor, but man, really funny guy, just a pleasure to be around, really cool person. Steven Weissman, who I saw today, a fellow Meth fan, just love him, really, really nice person. Again, took me under his wing and just was nothing but the coolest to me. Joe Prendergast, a really, really nice person. He just started his show about video games. It's really, really good, so check that out if you can. If not, I'll send you the link to it. I can totally send you guys the link. Of course, my two lovely producers that are here today, Matt and Ty. I love these kids. They produce my show every single Thursday this entire semester. And I couldn't do it without you guys. And I love that you guys do your own show. And I know Tyler's going to go on to big and great things and nail it. And I know Matt is still going to be crazy as ever, wherever the hell he scurried off to. But I love you guys. I really do. You guys are the best. Of course, Cheyenne. Cheyenne helped produce my shows in the second half of last semester. Just the coolest chick ever. Love Cheyenne. Really, really nice person. We actually had Cheyenne on for a show talking about the Evil Dead remake. Really, really great person. Love Cheyenne. And of course, my producer for the first half of the show for the first semester, Miss Miranda Musmacher. So and the undoubtful, uncrowned yet, but she's going to be the next president of Ram Nation Radio, and I'm super excited for her to get that because she doesn't deserve it. She earned it. She is one of the smartest people I know, one of the kindest people I know, and somebody that is super supportive. So thank you very much, Miranda. I really appreciate it. And of course, all my guests that I had on the show. How could I forget you guys? I have my good friend Ryan. He was my first guest. Thank you for being my first guest. We talked Halloween and all that good stuff. We had my good friend Brian, who, if I had a co-host, I think he would have to be him. Brian White, one of my favorite people in the whole world. My doppelganger, if you will. He'll know what it means. Nobody else will. But that's why it's an inside joke, right? Another great person, a great friend that's always had my back, and I love you, Brian. Brandon, my good friend Brandon, had him on for both Elm Street episodes, the It Follows episode. Just another one of my best friends in the world. Love him. JP, had JP on for The Shining and High Tension. Shout out to JP, too sweet, brother. My good buddy JP, had him on here and he nailed it. Just had a great time talking with him and shooting the breeze with him. Of course, my friend Tom LaRock, who's on the other side of the glass right now. Tom, I don't think there's anybody more comfortable than when I had Tom on the show. He was just happy, excited, spoke intelligently, and he actually drove in a blizzard to go to a Ranger game with some lucky woman. I don't know who he went with, but she was some lucky number. I tell you that. Tom, we love you, buddy. Of course, my good friend Mark, who I had for the Twilight Zone episode, and again, all my listeners, thank you guys so much. It has been such a ride at Ram Nation Radio. Season 3 will happen. I got to get stuff settled. I got to get a job, and I love you guys. Thank you so much for sticking on this journey with me, and thank you so much for listening to me talk about the one thing I love most, and that's horror movies. I love you guys. Too sweet. Graveyard's about to go out. Till next time, baby. Love you guys.